Okay, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're broadcasting live this morning from our Jerusalem headquarters. This is Yoel Kortick, Senior Librarian at Ex Libris. And today, as you know, we're discussing support for local extensions for bibliographic records linked to the Alma Community Zone. Let me share my desktop and everybody will see what's happening. Okay. So everybody should now see my desktop. I'm just going to make sure I've got everything closed, which should be closed. And it looks like that's the case. So first of all, I'm now on our documentation site, on our Knowledge Center, and the material we're going to be covering now is right here, support for local extensions for bibliographic records linked to the Alma Community Zone. I will send that link out to everybody right now, and also, in any case, everybody is going to get that link because we're going to post the recording of this, as well as all related materials, including this presentation, to the Knowledge Center, and you'll be able to access it. But in any case, I just now sent it out to all participants. So we're not going to be showing the PowerPoint slide by slide. However, we will show just a few major points from the PowerPoint, but not more than one or two slides. And the first thing I want to point out here is, why do we have local extensions being supported for bibliographic records in the institution which are linked to the community zone? So we'll see exactly what that is, but why are we doing this? Until now, if you had a linked record from your institution to the community zone, you had what was in the community zone. And if you had your local record, then you didn't have all of the rich functionality of the community zone, including the updates, the activation, everything that comes along with the community zone. Now it's possible to use local extensions. That means local fields, but it's more than just a local field, as we'll see. It's a local extension because it's a local field which is linked to a linked record. You're able to use local extensions for records linked to the community zone. That means, for example, you can use indexes, you can use facets, you can also use database categories, you can have local extensions inside Alma Analytics, and we're going to see all of that. So that's the whole point here, that you're able to use both the functionality of the community zone together with the functionality of cataloging records in your institution all at the same time. That's the whole advantage here. So let's take a look, first of all, at some brief definitions, and then we'll see how it works. Feel free along the way to either just start talking or to send in a chat if you have a question. All right, so we're going to begin with a little bit of configuration here. So I'm in Alma, and I'm in a regular February release right now, just like you all have, February 2020, because it's February 10th. And a couple of things. So first of all, I need to define which fields do I want to use as my local extensions. And in the case here, I'm going to use a 913 and a 948. And let's just take a look. First of all, I'm going to configuration, and I'm going to resources. And first of all, if I want to be able to search by these local extensions, which is most likely the case, then I'm going to define under resources, search configuration, search indexes that I want to be able to search by them. So I'll go to the local bib, the section here for all of the local fields. These are the local holdings. And under the local fields here, we've got, for example, a 913, and we've got a 948. And I define for both of them that true, meaning in the simple search and in the advanced search, I'm able to search for them. 913 and 948. Later on, we're going to talk about the 914, which I've defined also as a local extension, but slightly different. That's for the DB categories. We'll hold on that. Okay. So they're both defined there. Then I might want to give them a logical name rather than them just being called 913 and 948. I can go to Resources, Search Configuration, Customize Indexes Labels, and call them whatever I want. In this case, I've called the 913 the local department, and I've called the 948 faculty reference. So now I've got the fields able to be searched by simple search, by advanced search, and I've given them names. Now, I also want them to appear in Primo. Now, I'm using Primo VE. If you're still using Primo Classic, the same configurations can be done, but it would be via the back office. I'm going to be showing it here via Primo VE. So I'm going into Configuration, then into Discovery. And there's two areas here where I'll do the configuration. One will be Manage Display and Local Fields. I'm under Discovery, Display Configuration, Manage Display and Local Fields, and I've got my local fields here. I did add local field, and then I chose a field. Let's take a look at what I've got here. I've got my local field 913 using the out-of-the-box normalization rule, and I've enabled it. This is an important point. I've enabled it both for search. This is for the search in Primo. What we looked at previously was the search in Alma. This is the search in Primo. And for faceting in Primo, we're going to see that I can use these local extensions of CZ records also for faceting. So that's my local field 1. That's the 913. And then I've got also the 948, the faculty reference. And again, it's enabled for search and for faceting. The 914 we'll look at later because we're going to talk about the DB categories as well. And another place I'll define this for Primo will be under Display Configuration, Configure Views, because I'm going to go into the view that we're going to look at soon and define there what I want to do. So here I am under my default view. Those of you, by the way, in Primo Classic can see what a nice back office, we can call it, we have for Primo VE, the built-into Alma configurations. Let's go take a look at this view. So under my brief record display and under the brief results, let's start with the brief results. I've said that I want to have the local department and the faculty reference, those two, 913 and 948 that we looked at before, as a facet. Here it's local facets, so they're going to appear as a facet. We're going to see that very shortly. I think we've covered everything we need to cover here. Let's pop in and start doing some actual cataloging and see how it all comes together. So let's say here, I'll go to electronic collections. And let's say I have, for example, an electronic collection, library and information science collection here from ProQuest with 222 portfolios. And let's say I want to take this technicalities and I'll edit it. Yeah, I'm going to go back just to point something out. This is linked to the community zone. Collection is linked to the community zone. All the portfolios are linked to the community zone, which isn't necessarily the case. You know, you can have local portfolios with electronic collections linked to the CZ, but we'll save that for another day. But in any case, right now I'm looking at a record which is linked to the community zone. And I want to edit this bibliographic record, so I'll go into the Mark Record view and edit. So now I'm going to add a 913 and a 948. So let's say I want to add a 913. So I'll go to the end of the record and I'll either do Control L or add local extension. Now this is different than just add field and putting in a 900 or a 590 or something that would be considered local. This is a local extension, which means it's linked somewhere else, in this case to the community zone, and I'm keeping all of those links to the community zone, but I'm also adding one of my own unique additions, and that is the local extension. And this will be 913, and I will call this Information Studies for, just spell that properly, Information Studies for Undergraduates. That'll be my local department. Now you see I've got a little house next to it. Like my own house, like it's local, a local extension. And I'll do Control L and add also a 948 with the faculty reference. So let's say I have a faculty reference, and I'll do another one, a 948, and let me actually get rid of this one, Control F6, Control L, there we go, and one more. Okay, so now I have two 948 faculty references in one 913 department. We'll see what this is going to do soon, and I'll save that. Okay. And let's do one more, just so we have some more examples when we start looking at the Primo discovery. So I'm going to release this, and one more. We'll go back to our electronic, actually I'll just do back right here and back right here. So this is my list. Let's take Librarian Career Development. We'll do another example here. And again, we'll add a 913. We can add multiple 913s as well. And let's say we want to do a Control L. Control L. So we'll do a 913 for our department. Library Science in the Carmel Mountain area. Okay. And 948. See what I did there? By accident, I did just adding a regular field, so I didn't get the amount, the house. Add local extension, 948. Now I have the house. If I just add a regular field, let me show that again. If I were to just add a field, add field, and put in a 948, I don't have a house. It's just a local field. But when I do add local extension and add a 948, now I do have the house. That's the difference between adding a field, which happens to be a local field because it starts with a 9 or has a 9 in the second digit, and a local extension. Let's get rid of these blank ones. And let's add here. And this is Alicia. And again, Control L, 948. And another example. Okay, so now we have 2 records we've added. Now let's take a look at something. Save. This record here, we're going to look at it to see what is this local extension doing. We're going to look at it in the institution, and we're going to look at it in the community zone and see what's going on here. So I'm going to take this community zone system number here, and let's take a look at something. You see I have local extensions here. I'm in my institution. And I'll say Mark 21 bibliographic release all records. Now, if I come along and search for this record, let's say other system number, which is that 035, and I search for it here in my institution, and I click it to view the mark view, I see here that these are local extensions. However, if I say back, and I do that same search in the community, same exact record, and I search for it, and now I'm in the community tab, you can see it's linked to my institution, and I view that record. Now I do not see the local extension. That's a key point here. I'm using a community zone record. I have all of the rich functionality that we all enjoy from the community zone. However, the changes I make are not affecting anyone else. They're my local extensions. Only I see them. They're only indexed for me. They're only faceted for me. And we'll see shortly, they're also only in my analytics, and they're also only in my database categories. I'm going to stop for one moment before we go look at this in Primo and see if there's any questions, any comments, and if there's any technical issues. Everybody hears me all right, first of all? Just raise your hand and send in a chat and say, yes, I hear you just fine. Just to make sure we're all right here. I don't see anyone sending one in. Let's look at the participants. You all attendees. I don't see any hands going up. Everybody hear me all right? Just raise your hand or say, yes, I hear you. Okay, people are answering. Okay, great. Stacy, I see you joined. Nice to see you. We're going to be looking at some DB categories pretty soon. I know you're going to like. Okay, let's continue. So now we have 2 records. I actually have many more that I prepared, but we see what we've done so far with 2 records with local extensions. Now, if I were to come into my discovery and do a library search for library science. Why am I doing a search for library science? These examples, which now we added the local extensions to, are part of electronic collections which deal with library science, so I know I'm going to get them. That's the only reason I'm doing the library science. We started out at electronic collections, searched by Library and Information Science collection, and then we went into this one with the 222 portfolios, and that's where we started adding some 913s and 948s. So if I come in here now, I see here that I've got my facets. Why do I have those facets? First of all, if you recall, because we went in Alma to the discovery to the view, and if I go to the view that we're looking at now in Alma, we went to the brief record display, to the brief results, And here, where we've got our facets, we have the 913 and the 948, and here they are now. And if we come down here, we've got our facets, and we've got our faculty references. Here, for example, we added Boaz, we added Nomi, we added Zoltan, we added Alicia. This we added. That's another nice feature about the Primo VE, but we're not advertising Primo VE here. But you know, I added this about 2 minutes ago, and we've already got it in Primo instantaneously. But in any case, we'll save that for another day. So I've got my facets, and then I've got the bibliographic record that we added this to. And here, if we go look at the record, you can see I've got these local extensions displaying here. The local department and the faculty reference, I'm displaying these for my display fields. Why is that happening? Because again, when we were in the Alma configuration and we went to discovery and we went to manage display and local fields, we added these fields for display. Okay, so we've seen that we can add local extensions to the bibliographic records in the institution, which are linked to the community zone. They then appear in Primo. We're able to search them, by the way. We just looked at the facets right now, but if you recall, we also said that we want to be able to search these in Primo. When we went to the Manage Display, all of these fields, we said not only do we want them for faceting, but we want them for searching. And they can be their own dedicated index, and they can be part of the overall searching. We don't want to go into the depths of the Primo configurations right now. Suffice to say that we can search for it because I've said enable search. And now, for example, here, if I say I want to search for Naomi and Boaz, those were two of the faculty references. Oh, I get Naomi and Boaz from Ruth, from the Bible book where there's Naomi and Ruth as the characters. But that's not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the technicalities, which is the record linked to the community zone that we added to local extensions. So now I was able to search also for these local extensions inside the community zone and inside Primo. All right, so there's more ways, however, to be able to add these fields. So until now, we've done it manually. We opened up the record and we were in the cataloging module or the metadata editor, excuse me. Blast from the past, calling it a cataloging module. We were in the metadata editor. I don't know how that one came out. So we're in the metadata editor. And we manually added the fields. However, I can also do this by using a normalization process or even via an import profile. Let's take a look at something. If I go and we'll go back to the metadata editor. Now, behind the scenes, anytime there's a local extension, it's a bibliographic field with a subfield 9 local. Let's add some local extensions via a normalization process. So I've already got one here, but let's duplicate that and make a new extension. Okay, so this is 1, this is 2. I will duplicate this and call it 3. Now, anyone have a suggestion? What do we want to add as a faculty department? Anyone have a suggestion? Or should I just make one up? I will say save, and I'll go to the chats. We'll try to make this interactive. If anybody has a suggestion of what local department to add, let me know. Send it in. No one has a suggestion. I thought for sure someone would have a suggestion. Okay, so I'll make my own up. So what I'm going to say here is add 913 subfield A as a local extension with text, and I'll make up my own library and information science in the Asia Pacific region. Okay, so now we've got that. So what am I saying here? If it doesn't already exist, in other words, if I don't have library and information science in the Asia Pacific region, then add a field, library and information science in the Asia Pacific region, and then add subfield, and then I say what subfield to add, and it's going to be a subfield 9 with the text local. And that means behind the scenes that it's going to be a local extension. So same thing here. I will add it if I have that. And then we want to add a 948. Let's add, instead of Alicia, we'll add somebody else. We'll add Roger. Okay, so we're saying if that field does not already exist, we don't want to add it twice. That's a standard way of dealing with the normalization rules, by starting with a condition. If I don't already have what I want to add, then do it. Then I'm prevented from getting it twice. And then again, I add the subfield 9 local. And that. And maybe we'll even add 2 948s. And maybe we'll add our library science professor Boaz as well. So, again, we'll say if he doesn't already exist, then we'll add him. And then we'll add the subfield 9. We don't even need to test it. We're sure that'll work. We didn't make any mistakes in there. Everything's good. Save. Okay. Now everybody knows that after we make a normalization rule, we need to add that to a normalization process. So let's add that to a normalization process. Normalization process will go to resources, metadata configuration, Part 21 bibliographic, normalization processes tab, and we'll add a process. And we'll call this add 913, 948 local extensions morning session, because we're going to be doing a session later this afternoon as well. And I'll call that also, actually, let's call it 3. I already have 1, 2, and 3. We'll keep it the same syntax. Now, because we want to add a normalization rule, we need to use the Mark-Druhl normalization task. Add that and close. Then next, we'll choose the one that we want right here, which is 913 right here. Add 913, 948. Number 3, that's the one we made right now. And there we go. So now we've added our normalization process. Now we want to run that on a set. We could run it one at a time in the metadata editor, but let's run it on a set. So we could even test it on one record, but we're pretty sure it's okay. So let's get not many, 1, 2, 3, a couple of records. So we'll go back to the electronic collection. Or better yet, let's even say admin manage sets. We'll add a set now. Let's add an itemized set. I said add itemized set. set name, we'll call this, I'll call this one morning. And this will be, okay, all titles is all right. Now, as you know, there's several ways to add to a set. And we're going to do this. This is a itemized set. And that can be done via a file, via Alma Analytics, or via clicking here, add members to set, and doing a little search. So let's do a little search and see what's going to happen. Add members to set. And we'll go search. Let's take Library Science Collection. Get a couple of community zone records. All right. So let's go down. Let's take, this is up. Oh, that's not a community zone. Here's a community zone. Let's go to the next page because I've already done the first page on this many times. All right. That's a community zone record. That's a community zone record. That's a community zone. So we'll take 3 records for our set, add the selected, and done. So now we have a set called morning. Let's just take a look at that set. Session Iluna morning, from 2018. So here's just our regular morning, members, and there we go. So we have a set of bibliographic records connected to the community zone. We have a normalization rule, which is linked to a normalization process, which adds the local extensions. Now we're going to run a job that's going to use that normalization process to update these records. Everybody with me? Let's just see if everybody's with me. It's a quiet crowd this morning. I'm a little concerned. Just raise your hand if you're with me or send in a chat and say, yes, I'm with you. Okay, people are saying they're with me. Great. So here we go. Admin run a job. And we're going to break that down to just the normalization. These are all of my normalization rules. Now, I happen to have a lot, so I'll just do a search here. Okay, so we want to take this one here, add 913, 948, local extensions 3. Next. Now I'm going to add that set. That set was called morning. And there's the normalization rule. And I take a look, everything looks right. And I submit. So now that normalization rule that we made, which is connected to the process, is running on those 3 records. It's finalizing here. Finalizing, it's actually done. The finalizing process means it's like when you're doing to an FTP server, it's sending it, or if you're exporting, it's exporting the file. In our case, the data update was already done. Let's take a look here. So if I go now to admin, manage sets. Oops, admin, what's going on here with my mouse? Manage sets. Morning. There it is. So we added the faculty reference, Boaz and Alicia, I believe. I forgot already who. And we added library science in the Asia Pacific region as our department. Local extensions. Members. Let's go take a look. Wireless internet communications. There they are. Roger Jet and Boaz we added as our faculty reference and as our department, Library and Information Science. In the Pacific region, these were added now from the job that we used. Everything worked perfectly here added from the job that added the local extensions from the normalization rule because they have subfield 9 local, which is going to bring us to our next let me just do one more thing for you. I want to do edit record a moment, which is going to bring us to our next part of the lecture, which is exporting records that have these local extensions. So these were added right now. If I say tools, view versions, you'll see this was added. I'm now an hour behind my local time. If I look at this previous version, it doesn't have it. My version does. So that was added right now. Modified by system. System is the job. Okay. Let's go on here. And release all records. Okay. And again, I just want to show here that if I were to look here for a 948 faculty reference, when I look at a record here in my institution, I see these local extensions. And when I view these in the community, first of all, I don't even find it because it's not in that field is not in the community. But if I were to look here for wireless internet communications, let's get the exact CKB number. If I were to search for this same record, other system number, first I'll do it again in my institution, so you see it's the same record. Here I've got my local extensions. However, when I view the same record in the community, I do not see them. That's the whole nice thing about it. Now, if I were to take these records, let's say I want all of the records. Let's see what kind of facets we got here. If I were to search for every 913 field that has the word librarian, just so I get a decent amount. I've also got nation studies, but I want to make a set and export for something. So if I were to say I want to search by the 913 for those records with the word librarian. So all of these records that I'm looking at here have a 913. I know they also have a 948, but they've got a 913 because I searched for something with the 913, so I know they have it. I'm going to save that query and save that as a set, and I'll call it morning has 913. And I'm going to export this just to show what does a record look like when it gets exported and has the local extensions. By the way, do you think it would be cool if right from here I could export to a Mark file? That might be coming up one day. But in any case, now I'm going to say admin, run a job, export records. And we'll say export. We'll say export bibliographic records. Next. And I'll take that set that we made right now. Morning has 913. Next. And XML. I'll put it out to XML so we can read it easily. And there we go. So now we're going to be looking at exported records which have a 913. And do I have questions in the chat? Please answer the questions in the Q&A. Okay, I don't see a Q&A section. Tali, if there's some questions that came in, or Haifa, you can just send them right out in this regular chat to the host, to me, either the host or the presenter. Send them right to me. I didn't see any questions. I apologize for that. Oh, I got it here. Does the local extension applicable for 9xx fields only? Can it be used for other local marks? It can be used for the 5 nines and the 6 nines as well. You wrote IE 5969. Let's do a little test and we'll check that right now. And then we've got another one. Can we normalize this local extension fields upon activation? I'm not sure what you mean by can we normalize this, but I'll get to that one in a minute. First, I want to take the other one, but you can apply normalization rules on the local extensions. For example, you can say, let's wait. Say, I don't want to export it, or I want to change it when I export it. Hold on. So anyway, we've exported this now. First, we're going to look at the exported records, and I'll close that. Okay. So here, let's go look at that record which was exported. Here's the records, and I'll download. I'll save it. I'll go to the containing folder, and I'll open that in Notepad++, and I'll do a Control-Alt-Shift-B. Great. So let's take a look. What do we have here if I say tag equals 913? Beautiful. So now you can see these local extensions were exported, and they all automatically got a subfield 9. It doesn't matter if I add them manually in the metadata editor where I don't type in a subfield 9 with the value local, it automatically happens behind the scenes. That's the Alma's way of knowing that these are local extensions. So when I add them with a normalization rule, I put it as part of the normalization rule. When I add them manually, it automatically gets there because it's a local extension. And when I export it, it's also there. So all of these, you can see, have the subfield 9 local, subfield 9 local. 945 is not a local extension. That's just a local field, so it doesn't have it. And again, local. So all of our 913s, 948s that we added as local extensions have the text local in a subfield 9. Now, the question that came in, and tell me if I'm answering your question as desired. Let's say I come in and I edit one of these records. So the question was, I'll read it exactly, and I try to keep these exact as possible. So it says, does the local extension applicable for 9xx fields only, or can it be used for other local mark fields, i.e. 59x, 69x? Let's take a look. One way to find out. So I'm going to say tools, edit, add local extension 590. Look at that. The answer is yes. You see that house next to it. So yes, it does apply to other ones. Let's just make sure of that. I'm going to do a Control-L here. Look at that. We've got the house next to it. That means it's a local extension. Okay. So yes, it does apply to other local mark fields, and not only to the 6xx, and not only to the 9xx local fields. Does that answer the question? Okay, if it doesn't, write in some more. If it does, then great. Okay. Now, then there's another question here. How does this local extension publish to Primo when we have regular 9xx and 9xx locals? Okay, it's published to Primo because the ones with the local extensions have the subfield 9 local. Oh, exactly. We've got it just like it was exported here, it gets published. Let's take a look. If it's a local extension, it has the subfield 9 local. And if it's not a local extension like this one here, it's just a regular local field, then it does not have the subfield 9 local. So you can differentiate between those which are local fields, not local extensions, and those which are local fields which are local extensions by seeing if there's a subfield 9 with the value local. Okay, there's another important one I want to, one more question we got from someone. Does it have to be local? Can we use it for 7xx? No, it has to be a local field. But let me confirm on that. If I were to say Control L, I'm glad to see there's so much interest. And 710. See here, it doesn't. It has to be a local field. It doesn't have to be a 9xx local field, but it has to be a local field. In other words, it needs a 9 in the first digit or in the second digit, like a 0, 9, a 590, a 690, etc. Okay, so I think I answered the questions. There's something I want to point out here because I know one of the participants here who's on the call, who's on here, I know expressed a lot of interest in this. So I want to make sure we cover it, and I see that participant is still here. Okay, so now we're going to talk about a really nice feature. Look, all these features are nice, but now database categories. You can use these for database categories. And let's just talk very briefly about database categories. We've got 13 minutes, and I'm going to go to the PowerPoint just for a little bit there. And, you know, I really don't like the PowerPoints, but just this one section. So I believe it's slide 54. And there we go. Page up, page up, page up. Okay, so there's something called database category configuration. And let's go in. Who's familiar with the database category configuration? Let me just go back to the chat here. Getting lost in here. Chat. Okay. Send in a chat or raise your hand if you're familiar with the database category configuration. Okay, that one is. Someone's not answering, and I know he or she is interested and knows about this. Send me, raise your hand if you hear this, because I prepared this special for someone, and I want to make sure that person is. Raise your hand if you still hear me. Okay, so that person hears me. Here we go. So database category configuration, and here there's a link to the online help for it. We're not going to read the online help, but it's possible to navigate through the Primo Discovery interface by categories of the databases. That's the electronic collections of type database. And it's possible to use local extensions for those. So let's take two examples. Back to my PowerPoint here. So first of all, there's the definition of the database category. If I come here to configuration and I come to resources, general, other settings, someone doesn't know how to raise their hand. Okay, I once took a picture of how to raise the hand because other people had mentioned that too, but I thought it would be like a wise guy to send that out to everybody. But anyway, so we got the DB categories field here. Let me go back. I went to resources, general other settings, and we've got here the DB categories. All in alphabetical order. So I've defined that I want the 914 to be for my DB categories. Then, in the other places we saw earlier, I also defined, now I defined that I can also search this in Alma, but that's not mandatory, but it's nice to be able to search a field that I'm using for different types of definitions, because then I'll be able to find all of those that have it, that don't have it. Of course, I can use invocation rules for that as well. But in any case, I've defined here local big 948. We've got the local bigs after the local holdings. Sorry, I'm jumping around. Local authorities, local call number, local field. There we are. So I've got it defined here for the simple search and the advanced search. And I'm saying for the 914, customize the index labels. I've called it a DB category because that's what it's going to be right now. So 914, I've called it a DB category. I did not define this in the view as a facet because I don't want to facet by it just as a regular facet. I'll go to manage and display local field. So I'm displaying it here, but only for search. I've enabled this for search, but not as a facet. And let's go see what's going to happen. Oh, and then I also have a job activated. Admin, monitor jobs. See, I wanted to show this by the PowerPoint, and I didn't. So now if I go to monitor jobs and I filter by discovery, boom. So I've got create the DB categories running every day at 1 o'clock. Let's go take a look at the last one. Report, and last time it ran, it updated 174 records. Let's go see what's going to happen. I'm going to pop into my Primo demo. And watch this. Well, before you watch this, let's do something else. We'll keep the suspense going. So that 914 field, if I come along here and I search for the 914, and I'll say contains library. So what do I have here? I have ProQuest dialog. And I've said here that I have a 914 local extension library science PhD students. And then I have congressional indexes with a 914 library science computer programmers. Library science for computer programmers. That's a course we regularly offer here at Ex Libris. We also have programming for librarians. But in any case, so these are collections. If I were to come to electronic collection and search for electronic collection name, ProQuest dialog, you'll see that it's not, let's just fix that spelling. You'll see it's not just an electronic collection. I didn't fix the spelling. We'll try that one more time. Okay. It's type database. And same thing if I look for congressional indexes. So sorry about that. Horrible spelling. Congressional indexes. What's wrong here? 1, 2, 3, boom. Okay. It also is a database. And these are the records that have the local extension that I defined as the DB categories. So now when I'm in Primo and I click database search, I've got my categories, which is the subfield A. And then I can open that. And I got the subfield B. And then I can start navigating around. Very nice feature. So now I can take electronic collections from the community zone, add a local extension, and use those as my database categories. Very nice feature. Let's go take a look at the chats here, see if we got any more questions coming in. Uncheck your whole worlds from the FF search, then you will find things. Oh, thanks for pointing that out. You mean, thank you for pointing that out. And I'm going to go here. And discovery, tell me where you mean. When I went here, and then I went to here. Uncheck your whole words. Is this where you're referring to? Someone wrote to me, uncheck your whole words. Okay, you can let me, oh, for my Firefox search? In any case, you can update me on that one later. Okay, are there any questions or comments? It's 8:55 local time. Oh, maybe here he meant. In any case, we'll he'll send me in more details later. Are there any final questions or comments? Because we're just about out of time, and I want to leave a few minutes, as we have now 4 minutes left, to be able to take questions or comments. No more questions or comments. Okay. So in that case, I thank everybody for joining us. We're going to be sending out a link to the recording, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.